Hey folks, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about how to draw Bohr models. We went over this last week, but we are going to actually do some practice today. So make sure that you open up the assignment in Canvas, and I'm going to be going through and answering, kind of doing the first part of this, and then I'll do a couple examples, and we'll go from there. So remember that we have talked about the nucleus before, right? And there are two subatomic particles that exist in the nucleus. Those are the protons and the neutrons. Okay, so remember that they are in the nucleus. And then orbiting around the nucleus, right, like planets around the sun, are the electrons, which have a negative charge. And we talked about how the electrons, they orbit in three different shells, each containing a different number of electrons. The first shell can hold a maximum of 2 electrons. The second shell can hold a maximum of 8 electrons. And the third shell can also hold a maximum of 8 electrons. We went over all of that last week. So let's do a couple examples of how to actually draw some Bohr diagrams, and then you're going to be completing the rest of this worksheet on your own. So remember, for all of this, we need to first be able to know our numbers of protons, neutrons, and electrons. And once we know that, we'll be able to actually draw the Bohr model. So protons, neutrons, and electrons, we need to know those three values. So first of all, hydrogen, okay, atomic number of 1. Remember, what is that always going to tell us? That is always going to tell us our number of protons, okay? And so our number of protons should also be 1. And remember that this is also, for now, always going to be our number of electrons. We are assuming that this is a neutral atom. All right, now we are given the mass number, and that's what we're going to use to find the number of neutrons. Remember that your mass number, 1, minus your number of protons, which is also 1, is going to tell you your number of neutrons. 1 minus 1 gives us 0, and so we are going to have 0 neutrons. All right, so now that we have all of that information, we should be able to figure out pretty easily our Bohr model. Remember, we're going to draw a first circle, and wow, that is a really thick circle. Let's change the size on that down to a nice 5. Okay. So for our, and I'm just not got this quite right. Okay, so for our Bohr model, we're going to start off with our protons and our neutrons. Oh, I went too far back. For our Bohr model, we're going to start off with our number of protons and our number of neutrons. And remember that those are going to be going into the nucleus. So we need to draw our first circle. And this first circle represents our nucleus. And so we've got 1 proton and we have 0 neutrons. All right, so 1 proton, 0 neutrons, that's our nucleus. We're going to draw a second circle. And this second circle represents the first energy level. And we're going to be using a dot to represent our electrons. And so here is a dot. Here is our 1 electron. So we've got 1 proton and we have 1 electron in our nucleus. There you go. There is hydrogen, 1 proton, 1 electron, 0 neutrons, right? Okay, so that's how we would do the first one. Let's do the second one as well. Again, we need to figure out our number of protons, our number of neutrons, and our number of electrons. Okay, protons, atomic number 16, so that's going to be 16. Neutrons, 32 minus 16, mass minus that gives us 16, so our number of neutrons is 16. And remember, our number of electrons is going to be the same as the number of protons, also 16. Okay, so that part pretty straightforward. Now let's get into actually drawing our Bohr model. So how many protons? Well, we've got 16 protons, 16 neutrons inside the nucleus. So there's my nucleus. Not exactly a perfect circle, but that's okay. All right, now we need to think about our energy levels here. So our first energy level, first energy shell is going to have 2 electrons. So boom, boom, there's our first one. Okay, our second energy level. Right, there's our second energy level. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, I want to be keeping track of our total number of electrons that we've used, because that's going to help us to be able to figure out what's going to go in our third energy level. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 electrons that we've already drawn. So we're going to come to our final third energy level, and I've already used 10. There's a total of 16, so therefore I'm going to be adding on 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 electrons, 16 protons, 16 neutrons. That is all that we need to have here for our Bohr models. Now remember that these are maximum numbers. You can have less in each of the energy levels, so you may only have like 6 in the second energy level. And also remember that you always need to work from the inside out. Okay, you always need to start from the first energy level, fill that first before you go to the second, fill that before you go to the third, so on and so forth. So what you need to do to finish this worksheet is to fill out the rest of the front, the first page, do these other ones, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pick any 4 elements that we did not do on the first page and draw their Bohr models. You only need to go up to argon, which is number 18. So basically the first 3 rows of the periodic table, just pick one of any of those that you did not do in this first one, and you can do that there. Okay? All right, awesome. Thanks for watching, y'all, and I will see you soon.